I was 16 when I learned that my face was not my own. Not because of the accident, that came later, but because my twin sister had claimed it before I ever had a chance to. Aurora and I were born 11 minutes apart, and she spent the next 16 years making sure I knew those 11 minutes made her first, better, and more real. She was the blonde one, the pretty one, the one who smiled at strangers and received smiles back. I was the one she convinced our mother to dye brunette at age 6, because two identical twins with different colors would be confusing. I was the one who learned to paint monsters, because I had already been taught that my own face was not worth looking at. Welcome to Little Bunny Stories. If you're new here, my name is Celeste, and this is the story of how my twin sister stole my face to sell moisturizer, and how I took it back in front of 3 million live viewers. If this channel has ever made you feel less alone, hit subscribe. We tell stories like this every week, and if you're watching because someone treats your identity like their costume, stay until the end. I need you to hear how this ends. Here's my story. Aurora and I shared a womb, a birthday, and a face, but we never shared anything else. She was sunlight, warm, immediate, demanding. I was shadow, patient, observing, waiting for light that never came. Our mother dressed us in matching outfits until we were 10, and then, when I finally refused, Aurora convinced her to let us coordinate instead. Celeste can wear the darker version, she said, smiling. She's the dramatic one. I was not the dramatic one. I was the one who found a discarded makeup kit at a garage sale when I was 12 and spent 6 months learning to paint bruises, scars, and aging skin on my own arm. I was the one who watched horror movies not for the story but for the transformation, the way a human face could become a wolf, a ghost, a monster, and then become human again. I was the one who understood early that faces were masks, and masks were art, and art was the only thing that could make me feel real. Aurora didn't understand any of this. She understood Instagram before it existed, the performance of perfection, the currency of being seen. She spent hours in front of mirrors, practicing smiles, angles, the tilt of her chin that made her neck look longer. She collected compliments like stamps, displayed them like trophies. "You're so pretty," strangers would say, and she would reply, "Thank you, my twin is too," while looking at me with eyes that said, "But not as pretty as me." I didn't mind. Not really. I had my paints, my prosthetics, my growing collection of latex and silicone and spirit gum. I had the knowledge that I could become anyone, a zombie, a vampire, a 100-year-old woman, and that the transformation was more honest than any face I had been born with. Aurora wanted to be seen. I wanted to see. Those seemed like different desires, not competing ones. Then the accident happened. I was 16, driving home from a late-night movie shoot, a student film, unpaid, where I had painted a werewolf transformation that took 6 hours and looked, according to the director, better than the budget. I was tired, elated, my hands still stained with fake blood. The other driver ran a red light. I never saw them. I just felt the impact, the world tilting, the sound of metal folding like paper. I woke up in a hospital, my face bandaged, my mother crying in the corner, and Aurora standing by the window with her back to me. The first thing I heard was her voice, asking the doctor, "Will you be able to fix her so she looks normal?" The doctor said something about grafts, about healing, about time. I touched my face, my left side specifically, where the skin felt wrong, thick like fabric that had been sewn back together by someone in a hurry. I didn't see it for 3 days. When they finally let me look, I stared at a stranger. The left side of my face was a landscape of scar tissue, pink and raised, pulling my eyes slightly downward, drawing my mouth into a permanent half-round. It looked like a map of somewhere I had never been, somewhere I didn't want to go. Aurora looked at me once, directly, and then she didn't look again. She visited the hospital exactly twice, the day of the accident and the day I was discharged. Both times, she stood near the door as if proximity might be contagious. She brought flowers the second time, lilies that smelled like funerals, and she said, "You'll learn to cover it. You're good at that kind of thing." She meant it as comfort. I know she meant it as comfort. But what I heard was, "Your face was always a problem, and now it's a problem I don't have to compete with." I didn't cry. I had learned by 16 that crying was something Aurora did better than me. She cried beautifully, strategically, her tears catching the light like diamonds. My tears were ugly, messy, things that happened in private. So I saved my crying for the bathroom, late at night. When the hospital was quiet and my face throbbed under the bandages, and I started painting again. The first mask I made for myself was a replica of my old face. Not to wear to mourn. I took photographs from before the accident, the ones where Aurora and I still looked identical, and I sculpted a prosthetic in latex, painted it with my skin tones, attached it to a mannequin head. I looked at it for hours. I touched it. I cried over it. And then I destroyed it, melting the latex in a pot on my stove, watching my old face dissolve into a gray puddle. After that, I started making other masks. Monsters, creatures, faces that had never existed that no one could claim. I worked on student films, then indie projects, then a horror movie that went straight to streaming but got me noticed by a real effects studio. By 22, I was employed. By 25, I was credited. By 28, I had worked on 3 films that played at festivals, that got reviews mentioning my work by name. Aurora, meanwhile, had married a plastic surgeon named Derek. She had met him at a charity gala where she was volunteering, or rather, where she was being photographed volunteering. Derek was 15 years older, wealthy, recently divorced, and looking for a wife who would look good on his arm and in his waiting room brochures. Aurora fit perfectly. They married within a year, moved into a mansion with a view of the ocean, and began producing content. I didn't follow her social media. I didn't need to, other people told me. My mother, on phone calls where she mentioned Aurora's latest trip, her latest renovation, her latest brand partnership with a skincare line. Old friends, who had chosen Aurora's orbit and occasionally drifted into mine, carrying news like offerings. She's huge now, they said. 500,000 followers. She posts about your twin bond all the time. I didn't know what they meant. I had no twin bond with Aurora. We spoke at Christmas, briefly, politely. We attended our mother's birthday dinners in the same room but not together. We were related by blood and separated by everything else. Then I found the account. It was an accident. I was looking for a reference photo for a project, a face shape I needed to sculpt, and I typed my own name into Google. The first result was not me. It was Aurora's Instagram, a post from 6 months ago with a photo of 2 blonde women on a beach, arms around each other, laughing at something off-camera. The caption read, "My twin Celeste and I have been through so much together. After her accident, I thought we might lose her, not just her face but her spirit, but look at her now. Living with me, healing with me, learning to smile again. Twins are 2 souls, 1 heart. #twin goals, #sister love, #healing journey." I stared at the photo. The woman in it was not me. She was blonde. For one thing, my hair had been dark since I was 6, and after the accident, I had kept it short, practical, a deep brown that required no maintenance. She was smiling with teeth that were too straight, too white, the kind of smile that cost Derek's profession thousands of dollars. She was wearing a sundress I had never owned, on a beach I had never visited. But the face was mine, or rather, it was the face I had had at 16 before the accident. The face Aurora had stolen from photographs, from memories, from the version of me that no longer existed. I scrolled. Post after post, story after story, all featuring Celeste, blonde, smiling, healed, grateful. Celeste is shy, but she's getting better. Celeste helped me choose this lipstick, she says it reminds her of before. Celeste and I are starting a podcast about twin bonding after trauma. Stay tuned. There was no podcast. There was no twin bonding. There was only Aurora using my name, my history, my face before to sell products and accumulate followers. The real me, the scarred me, the brunette me, the me who existed in a studio apartment with paint-stained hands was nowhere. Erased. Replaced by a better version, a marketable version, a version that didn't frighten customers. I found the cosmetics campaign 3 posts down. A video, professionally produced, with Aurora speaking directly to camera in soft lighting that made her look angelic. 3 years ago, my twin sister Celeste was in a terrible accident. Her face, our face, was destroyed. She moved in with me, and together we began a journey of healing. Not just physical, but emotional. It wasn't easy. There were days she didn't want to look in the mirror. Days I had to remind her that she was still beautiful, still worthy, still my twin. The video cut to Celeste, the blonde imposter, the face that was mine but not mine, applying cream to her cheek with reverent fingers. "This is the product that changed everything," Aurora's voiceover continued. "Not because it erased her scars, nothing can do that, but because it gave her the confidence to face the world again. To be seen, to be whole." The product was a moisturizer. It cost $89 for a 2-ounce jar. The reviews mentioned inspiring story and real results and the power of sister love. I watched the video 3 times, then I watched it again. I looked at the blonde woman with my stolen face, and I looked at my own reflection in my laptop screen, the scarred side, the intact side, the face that had survived and been discarded because it couldn't be sold. Then I called my lawyer. She was sympathetic but realistic. Intellectual property of your own face is complicated, she said. Particularly when the images are from before the accident, and particularly when your sister is using them in a transformative way, claiming they are her, essentially. We could sue, but it would take years, cost hundreds of thousands, and the publicity would be brutal. Are you sure you want that? I wasn't sure. I went home. I sat in my studio, surrounded by masks and molds and the tools of my trade, and I thought about what Aurora had done. She hadn't just stolen my face. She had stolen my story, the accident, the healing, the journey. She had taken the worst thing that had ever happened to me and turned it into content, into commerce, into a narrative where she was the hero, and I was the grateful recipient of her generosity. And the worst part, the part that kept me awake at night, was that people believed it. They commented on her posts with hearts and prayers. They bought the moisturizer because they wanted to support Celeste's healing. They saw a story of sisterly love and redemption, and they never questioned why the real Celeste was never interviewed, never photographed, never seen, because the real Celeste was ugly. The real Celeste was scarred. The real Celeste was not marketable. I thought about suing. I thought about posting my own photos, my real face, with a caption that said, "This is me. This is what she stole." I thought about calling reporters, about going viral, about exposing Aurora in the loudest, most public way possible. But I was tired of loud. I had spent my whole life being quiet while Aurora was loud, being shadow while she was light, being real while she performed. If I exposed her with screaming and accusations, I would just be another version of her, another performer, another spectacle. I wanted something else. Something that used my actual skills, my actual art, my actual understanding of what faces mean and what they hide. I wanted to show her what it felt like. The wedding, or rather, the vow renewal, was announced 6 months later. Aurora and Derek had been married 5 years, and apparently this milestone required a spectacle. Twin souls, one heart, a celebration of love and healing, the invitations read. It would be live-streamed, sponsored by the same cosmetics brand, with Aurora as the centerpiece and Celeste as the emotional anchor. Aurora called me herself. I hadn't spoken to her in 8 months, not since a Christmas dinner where she had spent the entire evening on her phone, posting about family time. "Celeste," she said, her voice warm and performative, the same voice she used in her videos. "I want you there, I need you there. This is about us, about our journey, about showing the world what twin love really means." "You mean showing the world what you want them to buy," I said. She laughed, not offended, never offended. "It's business, Celeste, and family. They can be the same thing. You'll sit at the head table. You'll be in the live stream. People have been asking about you. They want to see the real Celeste, the healed Celeste, the one I've been telling them about." "The real Celeste is scarred," I said. "The real Celeste is brunette. The real Celeste doesn't wear sundresses on beaches she's never visited." A pause, then "You can cover the scars. Derek has people the best. And for the color, we can do a temporary blonde just for the event. The dress is already chosen. It'll be beautiful, Celeste. You'll be beautiful. For one night, you can be the you that people want to see. The you that people want to see, not the me that I was, not the me that I had become. The me that was marketable, palatable, profitable." I said yes. I said yes because I had already decided what I would do. I said yes because I needed access to the event, to the cameras, to the audience she had built on my stolen face. I said yes because I was going to give her exactly what she asked for, and it was going to destroy her. For 3 months, I worked in secret. I used my studio, my materials, my years of experience making monsters and creatures and transformations. I sculpted a prosthetic in silicone, layered with pigments, textured with the exact pattern of my own scar tissue. I studied photographs of my face post-accident, medical records, insurance documents, the few pictures I had allowed to be taken during recovery. I mapped every ridge, every discoloration, every pull of skin that twisted my smile. Then I made it perfect. Not my actual scars. Those were irregular, organic, the product of chance and emergency surgery. I made the scars that Aurora would have had if she had been in that car. The scars that would look real on camera, under lights at close range. The scars that would make her face match the story she had been telling, the story of a twin who had suffered and healed, who had been saved by sisterly love. I practiced applying it to myself first. I sat in front of my mirror for hours, layering the silicone, blending the edges, until my right side, my intact side, looked exactly like my left. Until I was all scar, all map, all landscape of survival. Then I removed it piece by piece and started again. I didn't practice on Aurora. I didn't need to. I knew her face better than my own. I had spent 16 years looking at it, the mirror image that was never quite identical, the version that was always slightly better. I knew the bone structure, the muscle movement, the way her skin stretched when she smiled. I could have sculpted her face in my sleep. The day before the wedding, I arrived at her mansion. She hugged me at the door, the first time she had touched me in years, and she said, "I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be perfect." I smiled. I know. She had arranged for Derek's makeup team to prepare me, cover my scars, apply the temporary blonde, make me camera-ready. I told them I preferred to do my own makeup. "It's my skill," I said, "my art. I want to be authentic." Aurora hesitated. She didn't want authentic, she wanted perfect. But she also knew that authentic was marketable, that doing my own makeup was a story she could sell. She agreed. That night in the guest room she had assigned me, the one with the view of the ocean, the one she had photographed for her Celeste's healing space posts, I prepared my kit. The prosthetic, hidden in a case labeled Special Effects, Emergency Repair. The photographs, the documents, the evidence I had collected over months. The video, edited and ready, stored on a drive that would connect to the venue's AV system. I slept for 3 hours. I dreamed of masks, of faces that slipped and shifted, of looking in a mirror and seeing Aurora where I should have been. The venue was a glass-walled conservatory, filled with white flowers and soft light, and the kind of beauty that costs more than most people make in a year. 200 guests, plus the live stream audience, plus the sponsors with their logos on every surface. Twin souls, one heart appeared on screens, on programs, on the napkins that cost $10 each. I sat at the head table, wearing the dress Aurora had chosen, pale blue, modest, designed to make me look fragile and grateful. My hair was blonde, temporary, itching at my scalp. My face was my own, covered in the makeup I had applied, the scars visible but softened, the performance of healing that Aurora required. Aurora sat next to me, radiant in white, her face perfect, her smile practiced. She held my hand during the ceremony, squeezing at the emotional moments, releasing when the camera panned away. She whispered to me, "You're doing great, just keep looking grateful." That's the story. I looked grateful. I looked healed. I looked like the Celeste she had invented, the one who lived in her mansion and used her moisturizer and owed her everything. Then it was time for the speeches. Derek spoke first, brief and bland, about love and commitment and the power of partnership. Then Aurora stood, and the lights dimmed, and a spotlight found her like she had arranged it, which she had. 5 years ago, she began, "I married the love of my life, but I also began another journey, one that many of you don't know about. My twin sister, Celeste, was in a terrible accident. Her face was destroyed. Her spirit was broken. She came to live with me and together we healed." She turned to me, her eyes bright with performance tears. "Celeste, would you stand? Let them see you. Let them see what love can do." I stood. The cameras found me. The audience applauded, polite, moved by the story they had been sold. I smiled, the grateful smile, the healed smile, the smile of a woman who owed her existence to her sister's generosity. Then I reached up and touched my face. The prosthetic was designed to release with a specific solvent, one I had applied to my fingertips before the ceremony, hidden under my nails. I pressed my fingers to my right cheek, the intact side, the side that Aurora had never seen scarred, and I pulled. The silicone came away in one piece, revealing skin that was smooth, unmarked, whole. But that was not the reveal. The reveal was what I had hidden underneath. Before applying the blonde wig, before dressing in the blue dress, I had applied the second prosthetic. The real one. The one that matched my actual scars, my actual left side, but applied to my right, the side that had never been damaged. I had walked into the venue with one scarred face and one intact face, the mirror image of my actual self. And now, removing the mask of wholeness, I exposed the mask of damage beneath. But I didn't stop there. I reached up again to my left side, my actual scarred side, and I removed a third layer. Underneath, my real skin, my real scars, my real face, the face that had survived, the face that had been discarded. I stood in the spotlight with 3 faces in my hands, the fake wholeness, the fake damage, and my own actual self, exposed at last. The audience was silent. Aurora was frozen, her performance tears drying on her perfect cheeks. "This is my face," I said. My voice was steady. I had practiced this too in my studio in front of my mirrors until I could speak without shaking. "This is the face that survived. The face my sister never photographed. The face she never posted. The face that didn't sell moisturizer." I turned to the screens behind me. I pressed a button on the remote I had hidden in my sleeve. The twin souls, one heart logo disappeared, replaced by images. Aurora's Instagram posts, side by side with the original photographs she had stolen, my actual photos, from my actual life, with timestamps and locations that proved they were mine. The cosmetics campaign with the blonde imposter next to a video of the real me at 25, working on a film set, my scarred face visible, my brunette hair short, my hands stained with paint. The emails between Aurora and the brand, negotiating the disfigured twin angle for maximum emotional impact. The contract with my name forged on a release I had never signed. This is my story, I said, not hers, not the one she sold you, not the one where she saved me and I was grateful. The real one where I saved myself and she stole the credit. I looked at Aurora. She had gone pale, her perfect makeup suddenly looking like a mask, which it was, which it had always been. You wanted to be the hero, I said. You wanted to be the one who healed the broken twin, but you never wanted a broken twin. You wanted a prop. And when I wouldn't be your prop, you made one up. The screens continued to cycle. The audience was no longer polite. They were watching, really watching, some with phones raised, recording, understanding that they were witnessing something that could not be unseen. I dropped the prosthetics on the table. They landed with a soft thud, silicone and paint, the faces I had worn and discarded. I am not your healing journey, I said. I am not your content. I am not the before to your after. I am Celeste. I make monsters for a living. And today I finally showed the world what you really are. I walked away. I didn't run, I had practiced this too, the pace that said I was done, not fleeing, simply finished. I walked past the cameras, past the sponsors with their logos, past the guests who had come to watch a performance and had seen something real instead. Behind me, I heard Aurora begin to speak, to explain, to perform. But the performance was over. The audience had seen the strings, and no one was applauding anymore. I didn't stay to watch the aftermath. I went home, to my studio, to my apartment that smelled like latex and turpentine, and the particular loneliness of someone who has chosen art over comfort. I removed the blonde wig, the blue dress, the last traces of the person Aurora had wanted me to be. I stood in front of my mirror, my scarred face, my brunette hair, my paint-stained hands, and I was alone, and I was real, and that was enough. The news came in pieces. Aurora lost the cosmetics contract within 48 hours. The brand issued a statement about misrepresentation and values alignment, though they didn't mention the forged signature or the stolen photographs. Derek filed for divorce 2 weeks later, not because he cared about the deception, but because the scandal was bad for business and a liability for the practice. Aurora's follower count dropped by half, then more, as the story spread through the internet's particular justice, slower than law but more thorough. She called me once, 3 months after the wedding. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. I didn't sue. I didn't need to. The evidence I had shown was enough, not for a courtroom but for the court of public attention, which was the only court Aurora had ever cared about. She had built her life on being seen, and I had shown the world what seeing her really meant. That was justice enough, though it didn't feel like justice. It felt like completion, like closing a door that had been open for 16 years. I went back to work. A small film, an indie project, a director who had seen the footage of the wedding and wanted me specifically. You understand faces, she said, not just how to change them, how to reveal what's underneath. The film was about a woman who wore masks to survive in a world that only valued faces it could sell. I designed the masks, 12 of them, each representing a different version of the protagonist, each more beautiful and more false than the last. The final scene had her removing them all, one by one, until she stood before a mirror with nothing, her own face exposed, scarred and real and enough. It played at Cannes. Not the main competition, the sidebar, the smaller venue, the one where serious critics went to find something true. I won a technical award for prosthetic design that serves emotional narrative, which is a fancy way of saying that the masks meant something. That they weren't just decoration, but revelation. I didn't mention Aurora in my speech. I didn't mention the wedding, the live stream, the 3 faces in my hands. I said, I learned that the face the world wants to buy is never the one that belongs to you. The one that belongs to you is the one you choose to show, even when no one is paying to see it. In the audience, a woman cried. She had scars like mine, visible on her neck, disappearing into her collar. I didn't know her name. I didn't know if she was an actress, a critic, or someone who had simply found her way to this room, this film, this moment. But I saw her, and she saw me, and that was the only transaction that mattered.